Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm sure we're going to have people coast to coast here. Going to give everybody a few minutes to join and get settled here. We're so excited that you're able to spend the afternoon slash late morning with us here. We're going to have a great session planned for you all today. While we're waiting for everyone to join, if everybody just wants to take a minute to hop into our chat and just tell us your name and where you're from, feel free to mention your business. We'd love to see who's joining us today in our session. Love it. Yes, absolutely. Hi, Desiree. Hi, Amy. So nice to see so many people. See? West Coast, East Coast, Alaska. All right. I love it. Give everybody a few more minutes to get settled in here. And while everybody is dropping their name and location in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and get myself introduced. I will be hosting us today. Again, I'm so excited that you guys are taking time out of your day to spend time on this session with us today. My name is Sarah Lowry. I am the Senior Director of Customer Success here at Hello Alice, and so incredibly privileged to be your host today. I am located just outside St. Paul, Minneapolis in Minnesota. I love seeing Talea's from Minnesota too. I love that. I love seeing all these people join. So go ahead, you guys, get settled. Drop your name and location in that chat. I know one question I'm going to see throughout today's session. People are going to ask if this session is recorded. It is absolutely 100% going to be recorded from start to finish, including our Q&A at the very end. And everybody who joins us today will receive a copy of the recording. So, all right. I'm going to we have 223 people already. This is amazing. I'm going to give everybody just one more second. Love it. Okay, guys, we are slowing down. I know there'll be more people coming in, but I do want to make sure that we take advantage of the hour we have together here and make sure we have time for Q&A at the end. So today's session, I'm so excited. Get found online, business visibility in 2025. I hope everybody's here for that session because it's going to be a good one. Before I introduce today's speaker, I do want to make sure that we go over a little bit of housekeeping. Again, this session will 100% be recorded. It will be shared in our community, and it will also be emailed out to you. We're going to go ahead here. I'm going to drop this in the channel so that you guys all have a direct link to where you're going to be able to find that recording. And then I'm going to encourage everybody to register for our next session. Our next live webinar will be Wednesday, July 16th. I'm going to go ahead and put that registration link in our chat now. So if you're able to join us on a future session, we would love to see you there as well. And our structure for today, I'll introduce our speaker in just a moment. We're going to get to hear from her for about 40 minutes or so. And if we have time at the end, we're going to go ahead and do some Q&A. So we'll try to make sure we get to as many questions as possible. But throughout the duration of today's session, there is a Q&A bubble. It's going to be right at the bottom of your screen in your main toolbar, wherever your toolbar is located. Go ahead and place any of those questions in that Q&A bubble. We have a whole team here joining our speaker today to help get those questions answered for you. We have Marissa and Julia from Hello Alice, and we have Pedro directly from UENI, and they are all amazing resources. So if you have a question and you want it answered, get it into that QA bubble, and then we will pull questions from there at the end for our live Q&A. So, without further ado, I am excited to welcome today's speaker. She is the amazing founder and CEO of UNI, Christine Telyan. And I'm going to let you take it away right now, Christine.
Thanks so much, Sarah. It's great to be with all of you. Thanks so much for giving me some time today. I hope you find the session engaging. Um, we're talking about how to get found online in 2025. And I think the first thing we all know is that once you have a business, you absolutely need a professional online presence. But the reality for many small business owners is that they struggle with this. So if you fall into any of these camps, believe me, you're in the majority. About 1 in 3 businesses don't have a website at all, and 1 in 3 businesses aren't happy with the one they do have. And so, what I'm going to try to do today is to help understand why that is and how we can overcome that so you are happy with your website and your online presence. So, we should say at the outset, perhaps the obvious, that you can't get online success simply by putting up some website. It is more involved than that. To be successful online, you need to stack a few things. You need a great website, but that's not a launch and forget it kind of thing. It needs to be maintained with fresh content, technology. The platforms that we use all have to be maintained and updated, as does your content. You need to be on other platforms. And then, of course, what do you do with the interactions you get on your website and on the other platforms? You need to do something with them as well. And of course, none of these things operate in isolation. They all have to work together. So, just as a big framework for when you set yourself up online, if you're starting this journey or you're restarting this journey, keep in mind 3 things that you need to define for yourself when thinking about how am I going to be successful online. First, you need a very clear kind of mission statement or set of goals. What are you looking to achieve over what period of time? And that has to be pretty realistic. The second is you need a budget. How much time are you willing to spend? How much money are you going to invest? And, try to stick to that. And then last, you have to think of it as a whole, not just launching that initial website, but what does it take to maintain it, to build out your presence on other platforms? Who's going to do that for you? Are there different stakeholders? Is it a one-stop shop? So these are the questions you have to ask yourself and answer when you're first setting up online. And, having worked with many thousands of businesses, hundreds of thousands of businesses over the 11 years we've been doing this at UNI, I can say safely that everyone on this call can have a successful online presence, but there are some things you need to know, and that's what I'm going to tackle. The first is, what are those myths that prevent great websites from getting launched? What are some very common mistakes to avoid when you're building a website? And then what is it that you need beyond your website? Okay, so let's dive in. The first is website myths. And here in particular, I'm talking about myths relating to do-it-yourself website building, because these tools, they're great. I mean, the platforms are absolutely great as technology. They're quite sophisticated and they're ubiquitous, right? You see ads for these platforms everywhere, Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy. Um, but they make it seem really easy. And the thing of it is, it's not easy. There's so much that goes into building a website, even on a do-it-yourself platform. In fact, it's launched a cottage industry of developers and freelance designers who use these platforms to build websites for others. Because even, using these DIY platforms, doing it well demands the skills of a designer, a marketer, a coder. And, even with something that's supposed to be do it yourself, you still need all of these skills to create a site that works for your business. So, it's not really that easy. The second thing is that it's fast. Professional web designers often take weeks to turn around a website, and without their expertise, You could think for yourself, how long would it take for you to come up with your own design identity, content, user experience, site navigation, branding, SEO, figuring out what additional plugins or integrations and apps you need on your site? It's pretty complicated and it's not quick. And the last myth is that it's cheap. You can start for free. It's it all seems very inexpensive, but the math is simple. How much do you earn by the hour as a business owner? And how many weeks will it take for you to get your website up and running by yourself? So what I just would encourage you, as I have with many business owners to do, is to think about the value of your time in all of this, not just the cost of whatever platform you're going to use and the subscription, but really how much time do you think that this is going to take from you, and to value that, because the real cost is the sum of your time, the subscription of the service, and the time lost without a website. That's the true cost of your website. And you have to ask yourself, is that really cheap? One thing I'll leave you with is that you need to know the stats here. About 5% of business owners that start on a do-it-yourself website builder actually successfully launch. And that's probably a pretty shocking statistic. It was shocking when I first discovered it, because it's because of these things. It's not really easy, it's not really fast, and it's not really cheap. So what is the one reason DIY websites don't get launched? Why do those 95% of people fail? It's because you don't know these myths when you first start out. It's not simple, it's not fast, it's not cheap, usually not. So with that in mind, maybe many of you already have a website of some kind. Maybe you're not happy with it, or you're planning one. As reference, about 40% of our customers that come to us have a pre-existing website. So I wanted to talk a bit about the top mistakes we see being made that prevent a website from being great. The first one is when a website doesn't prominently display a call to action. So calls to action help your visitors take the action you want them to take. And there are a few key things to keep in mind here. The first is to keep the buttons short and clear. Things like download now, call us, book, and try to use active verbs for the CTA buttons. So learn more is better than more info. Also experiment with color. There are a lot of conflicting studies about what color of the CTA, red versus green. UENI uses orange. I know Hello Alice uses blue. You have to try to see what works, what converts the best. And most of all, make sure they're easy to find. It's imperative to have a clear CTA above the fold. So that's the first screen that your visitors see before any scrolling. And you might even want it to appear a few times on a given page, say when the user scrolls down. The second mistake is that websites are slow. So you want to aim, there are a lot of different measurements here, like what to look at, but you want the first real content to load in less than a second, and absolutely keep the full page loading under 3 seconds. So that, that has to be a requirement for the hosting service that you choose. It should be focused on performance. And just a couple of things around, what can slow down your website: very large images and videos, and also a lot of custom code that would make the site really heavy and slow to load. The third mistake is that the website isn't mobile friendly. We've all seen these sites where the menu is clearly built for desktop, and it's very awkward to navigate. Your thumb can't quite click a button. It needs to be built with that responsive design so that the actual layout and navigation adjusts, whether it's a phone, and there are different size phones, a tablet, or a full screen and different size screens. The buttons have to be easily clicked, and you also don't want any kinds of, things that are going to get in the way of action on the mobile phone. Very often you have things that are stacked on top of one another, like floating buttons that are getting in the way of content, or CTAs. Also don't have auto playing videos. This tends to slow the load of the page as well as interfering with the mobile user experience. The fourth mistake we see is that there is no SSL. The site doesn't have a secure sockets layer certificate, and so it's deemed insecure. This is something that is an absolute must on every website. You've probably seen it when a site doesn't have it. You'll see a notification, something like this with the HTTPS crossed out. It looks like you're going to a dodgy website. Um, that's something that can be resolved from the organization that you purchase your domain from. Make sure that it comes with SSL certification. And this is really, the SSL provides a secure way for data to transfer over the internet. So this is something very fundamental on any website when people are giving you their information or they're purchasing from you. And it is obviously a very clear signal to your visitors whether your site is secure. It's also a clear signal to search engines whether your site is secure and should rank. So always make sure it's there and up to date. The renewals will come annually, and you don't want to it to fall out of service. Mistake number 5, this is the last one I just wanted to highlight, is that sometimes design overtakes the practicality of the site. You don't want so many things going on. It can be like the Las Vegas effect, like you see here. It's just, where do I focus my attention? Um, you have 3 seconds to capture really the attention of your customer. And you want to make sure that the message that you want to communicate, what it is your business does, and the call to action is clearly displayed above the fold. Navigation, how people can navigate to different parts of the site, is very clear immediately when they come to your site. And obviously, if you have so much going on, or you also have kind of such fancy effects, like sometimes you have all kinds of design things going on, animations that may look really cool, but they get in the way of the actual navigation of your customers. So just keep it in mind that the primary objective of your site, especially when a visitor first lands, is that they can easily get to understand what it is you do and how they can get in touch with you or take the action you want them to take. So those are some of the key things to avoid. But what is it that, on the other side of it, what are the elements of a great website? What should we be doing? And of course, there's no one size fits all. Your website depends on your audience, and what your website needs depends on who it is you're trying to reach. But there are a few guiding principles that I think everyone should keep in mind. The first is good copy. And very often copy can be feature focused, and what you want to think about is benefits. So benefits to the user. Make sure the writing is very clear and concise, right? People don't have time. Say what you need to say as shortly as required. You want to make sure, as we said, that great design is incorporated, but most of all, it looks professional, and that design doesn't compromise the loading speed of the site, which will penalize it more than whatever fancy design element is really worth. You want to make sure you have marketing features there that help you convert that traffic into customers. It could be the CTAs that we talked about. It could be a lead capture form. It could be a way for them to book your service. But you just want to make sure there is a very clear transition between traffic, people landing on your site, and people actually getting in touch with you or even purchasing from your business. And then last, strong technical foundations. We talked a little bit about this, but like search engines will really favor in search results those websites that load fast, that have clear structure that both people and the search engines can navigate, that have clear meta tags stating what the business does. This is just like making sure that the content is super clear, and then using tags, so your title tag, your H1, H2 tags. These are just SEO tags that are kind of signals to search engines around what is the content of your website and makes it super clear for search engines when they're crawling. And of course, as we said, it needs to be secure and it needs to be mobile friendly. So with these core elements in place, you're probably on the right track. So that's a bit about the website, what to avoid and what to focus on. But this is really just the beginning. Um, I start with the website because, none of the rest of it, any online presence will always link back to your website because, or usually will, I should say, because, that's your real estate, that's your foundation. And so, you're not going to start running paid advertising that leads you back to a very weak website. So it's fundamental to start there. But once you have there, now your website has to connect to other platforms and work together. So let's dive in. What else do you need beyond the website? Well, if you are a local business owner, bar none, the single most important thing you have to do, which is just as important as your website, is your Google business profile. If you've Googled anything, you will have experienced the Google business profile. It manifests itself in Google search as the panel on the right-hand side of the screen or at the top of the screen on mobile that mentions a business and then talks in some depth about it, the name, address, phone number, opening hours, links to the website or menu. Um, that is called the knowledge panel on Google. And the knowledge panel is fed by a business's Google business profile and that content. So the Google business profile is kind of like the brain of Google for local businesses. And I mention local businesses rather than all businesses because about 18 months ago, Google got rather more restrictive in which kinds of businesses are allowed to have a Google business profile. And it is those that have a local presence, meaning they either have some kind of storefront or office or like a physical location or meet customers in person. There's a lot of nuance around that. Happy to take any questions about it. But, if you are a local business, having this profile is fundamental. So there are a lot of studies that have been run on this, and a complete Google business profile is said to make shoppers almost 3 times more likely to see it as reputable, 70% more likely to visit, and 50% more likely to buy, which are staggering kind of statistics, but just point to the fact that the Google business profile is seen as a mark of credibility. Now, you obviously have to have content there that makes makes your business shine. And obviously, we'll talk in a sec about reviews. This is a very important part of the content, but also just having comprehensive information about your business there. There's a lot of things that you can list. If you're a restaurant, you can have your full menu listed. You can have tons of photos. You can post events. Maybe you have an offer, amenities like particular to your business, if you offer curbside delivery or what have you. So all of this content is very rich for Google search. And so, incorporating it into your profile, really helps send trust signals to Google. So super imperative to do this. There's another layer here where not only having the Google business profile, but verifying it. So proving to Google that you are the owner, you claim it as a property, because obviously they're providing content on the internet and they want to make sure that there is some level of quality control, particularly as it concerns local businesses. They have a verification process. It can be a little bit involved. This is something you can do yourself. Absolutely, it's absolutely free for you to do. Google makes that available, but it can be a bit of a process. So somebody can help you with it. At UENI, we help our customers do this, complete the verification process. And just to keep in mind, the Google business profile does interact with your website in some very real ways. You can connect the two and publish your reviews on your website. And like, on our platform, for example, customers can publish their reviews on their website, but they can also collect reviews and respond to reviews through UNI, which just helps the ecosystem work a little bit better. And that all can be done through their business hub. Okay. Obviously, the Google reviews is a big part of the Google business profile, but reviews in general, maybe you're a hotel, you have to be on Trustpilot, or your restaurant, you have to be, I'm sorry, on TripAdvisor. Maybe you're a hotel on TripAdvisor, or you're a restaurant, you have to be on Yelp. Wherever is the most appropriate. If you're a local business, in general, Google reviews are a bit the gold standard, and it syncs up with your Google business profile, obviously. So we always recommend it. I mean, just to keep in mind, today, one recent study showed that 88% of people now trust reviews as much as they do personal word of mouth. So, reviews go a huge way, and it's about consistently capturing them and making sure that whenever you have a good customer experience, you have a mechanism to capture those reviews pretty much on the spot. Like if you're a hairdresser and you have customers coming in and somebody's really happy, you need to have a way to say, "Hey, I'm so glad it worked out. Yeah, I'm just going to ping you on, SMS or on email, a link if you wouldn't mind leaving a review. That would be great," right? Just on the spot to make sure it's done. And, that's just social proof that is compounding. And very quickly it will pay off, because this is a huge trust signal to Google and to prospective customers. Business directories and listings. So again, there are a lot of platforms out there. Maybe you need to be on. It depends kind of maybe what type of business you're in, to what platforms you should be on. But in general, we always advise local businesses to be on as many, and small businesses in general, to be on as many as possible, because like on this illustration, Apple Maps, Facebook, even, Yelp, Waze, these are all very high trust authority platforms, sites that, if you have a listing there that is complete and has information that is consistent with your listings on other platforms, Bing, for example, maybe it doesn't drive as individual links loads of traffic. Again, these are trust signals. When somebody Googles your business, they will see that you have profiles on these different platforms. And again, if you have some social proof like stars on Yelp, um, hopefully, favorable ones. So you have to cultivate that. But, investing in creating, and all of this is free to do, these different profiles will help you appear much more reputable. And again, signal for prospective customers, signal for search engines. And don't forget that a lot of these platforms may have star rankings and reviews of their own, and they can be very impactful. One Yelp study showed that an extra star on Yelp actually drove as much as a 9% jump in revenue for independent restaurants, which is staggering, but points to the power of social proof. The next one, obviously, is social media. You know, Everyone knows it's ubiquitous, but kind of what is the business impact? What we're seeing, obviously, is that there's a lot more shopping going on these days inside the social apps themselves. At UNI, with our websites, what we do is we've connected the products on somebody's website to, a feed that syncs with Google Shopping, Facebook, and Instagram shops, because maybe the traffic is going to be on the Instagram shop and not on the website, but you want that content to be the same on both. So these are linked properties, and it's a really important strategy to do that, because they may also want to check your website and get more information there. We see that for Gen Z in particular, 2/3 of those consumers are ranking social ads as their top purchase driver. So making sure that, if you're putting content out on social, you kind of have that property to back it up, with a shop, is quite powerful and works incredibly well together. And just to give some broader frame, outside, maybe the more social media inclined Gen Z, we see in general about a quarter of all consumers have bought via social in the last quarter. So this is a thing, and no matter your business, you have to acknowledge it, and where possible, find the platform or platforms that resonate most with your business, where your audience lives, essentially, and try to integrate that in your own ecosystem. And last, email and SMS. So you've done all of these things to drive awareness now. You've created a website, a Google business profile, you're on these other platforms, social media. But the question is now, how do you may convert via those channels, but you may need some support to convert and also retain those customers. And email is still the ROI king. So the numbers are staggering. $36 earned for every $1 spent. So it's incredibly good value when you have a list, to nurture that list with content, with education, and then at some point, some kind of sale, offer, what have you. SMS is also very powerful. And, this is the channel that everybody reads the messages, right? Text campaigns enjoy 98% open rates. Virtually everyone reads their text messages, and a 45% average reply rate. So, you don't get better benchmarks than that. But of course, these channels stack. As we said, you have to drive awareness, you have to have credibility, you need traffic, you have to nurture them, and then ultimately, hopefully, they become a customer of yours or a follower, depending on your goal. I will note a word about advertising because it's such an important topic. And I always, the one message I always like to start with is just really about a few words of caution around it. Um, the way we advise, our our growth plan and our growth customers learn from us that you always want to start on the kind of organic channels where possible, creating content, optimizing the website and Google business profile. But you really don't want to jump in 2 feet first. You want to test with a small budget and not to increase until you see traffic. And so, starting with organic, you always want to start with organic. Make sure that the basics and the foundation of your website is really strong, and then start on ads. And when you do, and this is my third point, you don't want to be spreading yourself too thin. You find one channel, again, where you believe your audience lives, and focus on that. Remarketing is the best thing you could probably do as far as advertising. So you can put a pixel on your website to be able to remarket to users who have visited your website, your landing pages, your social media. Basically, anyone that is interested in you and is visiting your different properties, they've told you digitally that they're interested somehow. And so you can get data on that and then show to them via the different ad platforms, ads. And, for decades, we know that customers need multiple points of exposure before they convert. So it's a great thing if you have, different properties and you're able to track who's visiting, then to allocate your budget and your dollars to remarketing in particular, because that could be the most productive money you spend. You always want to learn from the competition, and what other successful advertisers are doing. Here, my word of advice from personal experience is don't only focus on people in your industry. You can consult things like the Facebook Ads Library, which provides an open book on ads that have been running for a long time. And so you can look at great companies and what they're doing and take inspiration, like keep your mind open. Maybe a Nike ad is relevant to your business, even if it's in a completely different industry, simply because, there if the Facebook ads library is telling you, look, these great companies have had these ads running for years. They obviously have a lot more budget than we all do, and have had success. And so, you can take some insight from that and maybe apply something from a different sector, or your own sector, but a successful ad to work for you. And then the last thing to keep in mind is sometimes it's hard to know what channel is driving the most value. And so, like, the way we look at it is think about your total marketing spend, and you want to kind of divide the total number of customers you've acquired or the total number of sales you have divided by your total marketing spend. And do you have a positive ROI overall? That's the single most important thing you need to do. You need to make sure that your return on ad spend, your ROAS, or your return on investment is positive to a level that is sustainable. If it is, you're doing great. Most people don't even get there. And then you could do some tweaks to, different channels to see, does it go up or does it go down? You could use dedicated landing pages. You could use unique promo codes or customer surveys to understand the impact of a single channel or campaign on your sales. But very often, it will be really challenging to know that this one channel is driving everything, unless you only have one channel, right? And so important to start with your overall kind of portfolio and then tweak individual things and use those tools, tracking tools to gain insight, in order to understand how you can optimize to make it even better. Okay. I've been going a while, so I wanted to just kind of turn to some of the very topical subjects here around having an online presence in the age of AI. Um, the question we often get is, how is ChatGPT and how is AI going to affect search? Um, this is an evolving thing and must not be ignored, and some actions should be taken immediately. But we should also calibrate uh, the current landscape. You know, less than 1% of visits are coming from AI engines, right? So your your site is still getting traffic from Google search. And and so the thing to keep in mind is that this is an emergent thing. And increasingly, the AI snippets, the AI overviews that you see when you put a question into Google, for example, and Gemini returns a very short answer at the top, that is having an impact on the visitors, the traffic to different websites. You can see that even in the short time that this has been around, the sites that are ranking first for some keywords or for a question are losing about a third of their clicks when that AI panel is present. So it is profound. Now, the pages that are receiving the biggest impact here are informational pages. And so we see that, about a third of the time that somebody is looking for a local service provider, they are getting those AI snippets. And so this is relevant for small businesses, for local businesses, but there are things that we can do. And it really builds on a lot of the local strategies that we've touched on, things like the Google Business Profile, the consistent information, name, address, phone number on citations, getting reviews, and then a couple AI adjustments, which I can talk about now. The first one being that the biggest difference between, let's say, conventional SEO and conventional optimization for search engines and search in the world of AI is that you have to tailor your optimization for real questions that people Ask in natural language, like the way we talk. People ask questions. When you go in ChatGPT, you ask a question. You're not typing in 2 or 3 keywords like we all got accustomed to doing in Google. So what you want to do is leverage that behavior, that new behavior. Put FAQs on your website that use that exact question. If you know your customers ask, I don't know, you sell bathtubs. What kind of bathtub, what is the best kind of bathtub for a hotel, right? If a lot of your customers are hotels looking for bathtub types, that is a legitimate question that you should ask in that format and put as I was saying before, the title tag, the H1, H2, answer it in a very short answer. And then you can have like that becomes kind of the summary answer, the TLDR. And then you can have a long answer below it. So this is the first thing. The second thing is really about keeping your Google Business Profile complete and up to date, as we've talked about at length, and adding the local business schema with key information. So a schema markup is a short piece of code you add to your web page that tells search engines exactly what each part of the page is. So this is for humans, not for humans, it's for machines. And you can have a local business schema to basically tell Google, Bing, and AI assistants that this is a service provider. My business is a service provider tied to a physical area. And you can tag key bits of information, name, phone, opening hours, and then this makes you more eligible to appear in rich local snippets and AI overview citations, because a lot of the questions now, especially that's happening on voice search, are near me questions. Where, what is the best Thai restaurant near me, right? So if that's the nature of the use, particularly for voice, but increasingly for search in general, tagging your content with this local business schema can really help you surface even in that AI overview in the snippet. The other things are, as I said, kind of creating the snippet itself. So when you're creating an article or some content on your site, as I said, you ask the question as your searcher or your prospective customer would ask, and then you put a concise summary near the top of each article. And you want to mark that up with other kind of schema. They have this FAQ schema, again, to give the signals to search and to AI that this is what is this content, right? Like making it clear. And again, mobile speed, as always, make sure that it's loading fast. So very simply, the big change here is really to answer questions, right? To write the way people speak, make sure your answer is very clear. The little summary at the top is very powerful, along with all the local SEO stuff and the schema that I just mentioned. So a 5-day plan, and this is, I think, the last point I just want to touch on here. It can be very simple, and you can break down a lot of the things I said to make an impact, just in the course of a week. So you can draft a Q&A post on your website with that short summary. It creates an answer block that can feed the AI overviews. You can do that Monday, Tuesday, relating to the content that you just created on your website, let's say as some kind of blog article. You want to post something on your Google Business Profile about that, maybe a short post, a short video, a photo. And then on Wednesday, reply to some local reviews. When you reply to reviews, it's a good trick to put the service that they requested and the location they were in, on your reply. That's also another signal. Make sure on Thursday, make sure your address, service area, opening hours are on your website, key local SEO pillar. And then on Friday, again, create more relevant content on your Google Business Profile, create a post, create a Q&A. And, these tend to be lead magnets, actually, because they can be very powerful in helping you surface when somebody is doing a near me search. So I hope that's a little bit helpful on the AI and emerging voice search side of things. But obviously, it's a lot, all of this stuff. Who's going to help you with all of this? I think the one thing I just wanted to say here is a point I made at the beginning. When you're thinking about setting up your online presence, you want to think about an end-to-end solution. And whatever you do, whoever you work with, you need a return of investment that is comprehensive. How much money are you going to spend? How much time? How much energy? And be very clear about what are you paying for? What are you getting? What are the next steps, right? Like maybe it's a solution for today. Is that provider going to help you with things that come up in 3 months? If not, who is? And just make sure you do this kind of quick analysis before you choose the company or the people that you want to help you. And coming back to the DIY, again, just kind of a word of caution because as I said, right, it's not easy, it's not quick and it's not cheap. And this table very quickly kind of outlines what are some of the things that are involved, kind of the hidden costs of a DIY website builder. There's your time. There's all the kind of itemized add-ons as well as the subscription. It adds up in dollar terms. And one thing to keep in mind is that this is only to get your site set up. And nobody on a DIY solution, you're working off your own back, so you're not guaranteed to launch, right? 95% of people don't launch, actually. There's no quality guarantee. Who's going to be there to support you if you want to change things? And then what about the next step? What about help with Google Business, local SEO, email marketing, paid ads? You're going to need someone or somehow to work on those things as a complete solution. So, this is our expertise. It's something that we've been working on for the last going on 11 years. And what I think distinguishes you and I is really that we think about it from the customer's point of view, the end-to-end solution, so you're not left hanging after you get something set up the first time. But whoever you choose, you do need a partner who, is creating a comprehensive solution for your business. Just to close, I just wanted to mention, put a spotlight, like it's always about the customer, it's always about the business, and just making a lot of the things we talked about today a little bit more real in the context of real businesses who we've worked with and who have benefited. So quickly, the first case study was about a business who is skincare and waxing. They'd been around for a couple years, mostly on social media, and they wanted to grow their client base and their revenues. And what we did with them, setting up a new website for them and really focusing on local SEO. So the GBP optimizations, creating a lot more content for social, and then bringing in a lot more traffic to their different properties. We were then able to use kind of the bottom of the funnel, email and SMS, on promotional bases to drive a lot more sales. And so they've kind of continued to grow. And the question is always like, how long does it take, right? And every business is different, but we say like, you got to give it a minimum of 6 months. You need a clear, plan in place, and you need to stick with whatever it is you choose, because less than that, it's very hard to be sure. A lot of things have to start working together, like we said, kind of the ecosystem. And this was a great story about how, in particular, when they started collecting a lot of reviews from happy customers, that became a real lead gen source for this business. And then, the second one here I just wanted to highlight is another kind of real story here about a pediatric service, very long standing in their community in New Hampshire. And they were really focused on getting word of mouth referrals. And they'd operated in the community for a long time, but they hadn't leveraged a lot online. So creating a new website for them that was very functional and could take bookings, and really helping them to create, to shine a spotlight on all the great things that they did, their expertise, the success stories of their patients. They saw, a huge increase in web traffic, 40% increase in bookings. And again, it was really about creating, building on so much of the good content they had, helping them to structure it and doing it consistently. because, over 6 months, you can do quite a lot. You actually can achieve quite a lot in 6 months, as long as week by week, you're doing something kind of consistently, and with some coaching and support. So, really great stories. I love sharing those because this is why we do what we do. And with that, I would really be happy to turn it over to questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christine. Such a great session filled with so much content, and you're right. It is why we all do what we do. I hope everybody here today picked up some key insights that will help improve with their business online visibility. We had a very engaged session and a couple of questions that have come in. We've been trying to aggregate all the questions to get to as many as possible here. First and foremost, whether Pedro or Christine want to jump in, we have a question about folks that have existing websites but are very interested in working with you and I. Are you able to take existing websites and migrate them over?
Yeah, we do that every day. So we won't edit your existing website on whatever platform you have, but when you join us, one of the first things we do is we send you a questionnaire and we ask you about any online properties you have, any websites, what you like about it in some detail, what you don't like. And certainly if you have imagery, content that you like, we will use that, and we'll try to take the best of what's there and build something fresh.
Yeah, amazing. Um, One of the questions that came in that I think is really important to ask here is what would you guys recommend to a business owner that has gone through a lot of the steps of setting up their website, establishing their Google business profile, but may have missed something significant along the way, such as their marketing budget or being on multiple platforms? What would your recommendation be?
So the question is, again, do you have time to learn this
Mhm.
and figure it out? If you're a local business, if you're a local business, one of the most successful kind of local hacks is find a few businesses, other local businesses in your area that may have a common customer base, and try to partner with them to do some online to offline uh, marketing. Like if you're just looking for, okay, how am I going to boost my customer base this quarter, right? And I need to kind of move quickly. But I would say, you do need to take the time to make your roadmap, right? You just say like, I'm setting aside this amount of money, and in order to make an investment in what I do, because again, do you have the time to do all the learning that is required in order to get something stood up? So that's what I would say. And then the last thing is, I guess the most important thing is knowing where your customers, prospective customers live. Like, are they
Yeah.
on Instagram? Where are they? And then focus on that. Like more than anything else, it's really hard to cut through when you don't, let's say, have any lead list. Because if you have a lead list, like old customers that you haven't been in touch with for a while, like email, SMS, like some content, some seasonal offer, that's always the best to kind of get things revved up again. But, a lot of businesses we encounter are just starting and they don't have much of that. So you need to kind of start the journey a little bit. If you are a local business and you start to populate your Google business, even with a handful of reviews, like with our customers, we say, can you get 10 5-star reviews in 1 month? Like that's one of the first challenges we give our growth customers. And, even that starts to drive kind of the flywheel. So there are small things, but you need to start. And if you don't feel you can start yourself, you do need to figure out like, okay, how much can I really set aside? What is my budget to get 6 months of, assistance to get me going?
Yeah. Very, very valuable insight there. A common theme that we saw from many business owners here, they were very intrigued around better establishing their Google business presence. And lots of folks were writing in regards to being a home-based business, a
Yeah.
virtual business, a non-brick and mortar business, right? We're seeing more and more of that. Um, what is your best word of advice to them to help build that visibility without potentially having a brick and mortar location or divulging a home address?
If you are a home-based business, you may still be eligible for a Google Business profile. You basically can say you don't need, nobody always has to, you don't have to disclose an address. That this is the important thing. You can say, I am a service area business and I serve a certain catchment. Okay.
Perfect.
So you may have a wide catchment, but maybe it's the state of New Jersey or Essex County or whatever. So that is still viable potentially. With this is one of those kind of borderline cases where uh, you have to try. And because you can think about somebody that operates in the like a plumber, he may not have an office as such. It is his van, but he's serving a local area. Likewise, if you're an accountant and you're serving customers in the tri-state area, you know, you still have kind of a catchment area. So it does depend on your situation. And I would say you can try it. This is something like, we have a GBP verification expert on our team that deals with this kind of thing all the time. So, we know the complexity of this issue, and sometimes you just have to present to Google your particular situation.
Great advice. I see I see a lot of very positive response here in the chat. That's amazing. A few questions have come in too about people really intrigued about working with your team, Christine. Um, if someone has an existing website, they're a little reluctant to give up their website without seeing what a new website could look like. Can you just kind of walk us through what that process would be? Is there like a sandbox feature or a preview feature where that website's getting built in parallel?
Yeah, so certainly you have to keep what you have already until you're happy with the new thing. Like that, you always should do that, no matter who builds your new website. So the process is this. So you sign up, and I should advance the next screen because and everybody who's interested can go for it. We have a nice offer for all of you. But you sign up, and we have a questionnaire that tries to get at like your business, understanding you really well so that we can build the best site for you. Then we go away and we ask you to actually book a call with us, a launch call. So, it takes us 7 days to turn around your website, and then we meet with you to launch the site with you live. Okay. So it's a very interactive process. And the idea is, we always target that in the first 30 days, often it's much shorter than that, but in the first 30 days, we get you to happiness. And that's our happiness guarantee. So, if within 30 days you're not happy, of course, we'll refund your money and that's okay. But we really aim for happiness in that window. And on the launch call, the idea is that the onboarding advisor presents your site, and you can convey to them anything that you don't like that you want changed. And there's unlimited edits by our team for all plans. The first 30 days. And if you're on our plus and growth plans, the plus plan is the most popular plan now. If you're on those plans, you have unlimited access to our teams indefinitely. So you always have people supporting you to change something, or if you operate seasonally, you want to change your theme, you have new products, or you have a new logo, or you want us to create a new logo. All those things are possible, but I think that the key point is you see what we've built for you. We can iterate to your requests. There's also a dialogue, so maybe you need advice on how you want something presented, you want something, but you don't know the best way to do it. We'll work with you on that. And then the last step in the process is when you say, yeah, I'm happy, you can point your existing domain to your new website. And we have a simple interface in our business hub so that our customers can do that because it's very common.
Amazing. Um, Thank you so much for sharing that. I can personally attest to the fact that the team there is very dedicated to achieving the very best outcome for all of their customers. So that's amazing to
Thank
hear.
you.
I'm glad you were able to share this offer with all the participants today. I know we are just approaching time right now. One, thank you to Christine for joining us, as well as Pedro from the UNI team. I will make sure that everybody who has attended today's session receives a full recap, including the deck from today's session, a recording from today's session, and again, a link to that community where we can continue to this discussion. And any questions we weren't able to get to today, we will try and get to those in the recap and in the community in the coming days. So I appreciate again, Christine, your time, your talent, your expertise. Um, Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I wish everyone an amazing afternoon, and we will be in touch soon. Hope to have you all here in the future with us again.
Thanks so much.
Yes, take care, everyone.